One thing that I had taken from the Borderlands 4 trailer is that if these are in fact Eridian related, then there is probably going to be a heavy focus on the Eridians as a whole. Even if you played Borderlands 3 and listened to all of the Eridian writings, you would know that it seemed like they were setting up something more to do with it all. And so I have decided that today I am going to go through the whole Eridian timeline and explaining it with help from the book called The World of Borderlands. And then I'll play an Eridian writing from Borderlands 3 that ties in with the event. The actual timeline doesn't have any dates as they are not known. Instead, they are marked as events from 1 to 15 that is known to have happened in a specific order. So with that said, let us begin with the first event in the Eridian timeline. The first event is actually an interesting one because it has two different events a part of it, and the reason why is because they both happened at a similar time. However, it is not 100% known as to which one came first, but it is clear that they happened thousands of years ago. With that said, I'll go in the order that it's written. A very long time ago, the Eridians emerged into the local galaxies and began to colonise a small amount of planets, including Necrotafeo. At some point, either shortly before or after they colonised the planets, the Eridians monitor a series of star systems being extinguished from existence, which then leads them to track down a horrifying entity that they name the Destroyer, a being that threatens to devour the entire universe, which obviously isn't good.
I do not know how the Eridians became aware of the Destroyer. They never spoke of a time before it. But I suspect that they went searching for it, or something like it, and for their curiosity, they were rewarded with doom.
After discovering the Destroyer, the Eridians began the centuries-long task and start to build Pandora, or otherwise known as the Great Vault. To us, this is just a planet with crazy bandits roaming it, but in actuality, Pandora is a planet-sized prison designed to imprison the Destroyer.
The prison known as Pandora is the most incredible cage ever constructed. An unbreakable lock meant to hold an unceasing evil for all eternity. Even for the Eridians, whose reach could pluck stars from across the void, it was the work of centuries.
Sometime after the construction of Pandora began, the Eridians create biomechanical constructs called Guardians. The Guardians were designed as an artificial race with the purpose of protecting or guarding various different Eridian sites. There have been theories that the design of the Guardians were made in the image of the Eridians themselves, but there is no concrete evidence of this being the case.
The Eridians left their mark on countless worlds, but few of their creations are as uncanny as the Guardians. They are quasi-life, a half-truth, driven by instructions they only partially understand. They are hardly the ideal custodians one would choose to guard the leashed terrors of the universe. But in their resolute imperfection, they at least mirror their creators.
Either during or after the construction of Pandora, word eventually spreads among the populations of the plan to lure the Destroyer. This creates a divide between the people as dissent begins to brew, and some openly disagree with the plan. In order to defend the Great Vault or Pandora, the Eridians design yet another biomechanical defender. This one turns out to be the massive superweapon known only as the Warrior. The Warrior successfully crushes the attempt of a coup.
Not all shared the desperate optimism of the Eridians. There were some who hoped to appease the Destroyer and save their own souls by attacking the yet unfinished Pandora. They were met by another of the Eridians' creations, the Warrior. Though their coup was obliterated, the Warrior now sleeps in its own vault, ready to defend it from any who would further trespass against Pandora.
The Eridian engineers also end up creating a vault known as the False Vault on Pandora, with its only purpose being to lure all types of fortune hunters and adventurers. In turn, they become sacrificial offerings to pacify the Destroyer.
All prisoners must be fed, even the Destroyer. The Eridians devised of a feeding slot that calls wayward souls to open it every 200 years. A cruel surprise for those that open this false vault. But in exchange, the small morsel will keep the Destroyer sedate over the eons. In any case, the victims will not be in pain for long.
The Eridians decide to build even more vaults, with most of them being protected by the Guardians, as well as in some cases, some of them even having extremely powerful monsters protecting them, such as the previously mentioned Warrior. Others on Pandora include the Leviathan and the Traveller. Many other vaults were made on other planets too, and each had their own vault monster guarding them, such as the Sentinel, the Rampager, the Grave Ward, the Serpent, the Githian, the Devourer, and most interestingly there is the Timekeeper that is mentioned in the Eridian writing called Secrets. This is interesting because the main antagonist of Borderlands 4 is also named the Timekeeper. These other vaults serve as trials to prepare vault hunters to defeat the Destroyer. It is not confirmed how many of these vaults actually exist, but there are likely a lot of them around the galaxy. We can even see this after defeating the warrior in Borderlands 2, as Lilith discovers an Eridian map hidden within the vault key.
There are countless other wonders or terrors they hid across the stars before my time. For every grave ward, traveler, or timekeeper, there are surely a dozen more slumbering in forgotten vaults.
After some amount of time, the destroyer begins to approach the prison that has been built for it. But unfortunately, the Eridians realise that they will be in need of a massive sacrifice to lure the destroyer into its cell. Because of this, millions of Eridians enter the Great Vault on Pandora as bait.
The momentous task of caging the destroyer was made all the more difficult by its intelligence. It understands the beings it consumes and the cultures it dissolves. To trick such a being required a great sacrifice. A lure. Millions of lives that entered Pandora ahead of its captive, tempting it further inward.
After some time passes, the Eridian elders order the siren named Nereid, the person who left behind the Eridian writings, to use her power, Life Leech, to leech the life force from the entire Eridian population. With that done, she had to infuse the life force into a device called the Machine, which is located inside a massive Eridian temple on Nekritofeo.
It was here that I killed them. 1 billion lives to power a machine. Should it comfort me that they will thrum in its heart forever? Perhaps oblivion would have been kinder. It would have been for me, at least.
After a period of more time, the machine reaches full power after absorbing all of the Eridian life. This is then followed by the destroyer being sealed in the Great Vault of Pandora. Unfortunately, there are no Eridian survivors. With the destroyer imprisoned and Nereid feeling the guilt of sacrificing millions of Eridians, she returns to Nekritofeo to die within the vault that is located there. Her reasoning for this is to hope that her siren life-leeching ability can never be unleashed within the universe.
When my atrocity was complete and I returned home, I found no family to rejoin. The others had fled. Our braid was unraveled, my sisters scattered to the stars. But they left me a parting gift. They told me where to die, that my thread might never be picked up again. When I have written my last, I will go back to the Eridian world, to the vault there. Oh, I hope it works. This would be a brighter universe without a leech.
So from here we need to focus on the more recent time. Many centuries pass after Nereid seals herself within the vault on Nekritofeo, and it comes to a point where humans achieve interstellar travel. With this achievement in mind, the human race begin to explore the 6 galaxies, and they even establish a galactic government. Eventually, many of the different major private corporations revolt against the established government. This rebellion actually manages to succeed, and so the leaders of these corporations take control and become the governing forces across the discovered galaxies. This causes the largest and most powerful corporations to begin a competition that escalates to a military conflict, and thus the engagements that follow become to be known as the Corporate Wars. Whilst hunting for treasure in Eridian ruins on the planet named Promethea, a freelance treasure hunter named Typhon de Leon eventually finds the entrance to a hidden Eridian vault. Furthermore, he manages to find the vault key that opens it, but alternatively, he decides to sell it to the corporation called Atlas in exchange for a very large sum of money.
Aslan de Vega, my partner/nemesis. He talked a big game, but there was a reason why he was down on his luck. He was lazy, but I was hungry to prove myself. Then one time, we were wandering through the Casmarian quarry, and I fell through some brittle rock. Aslan calls down, "Nice knowing you, De Leon," grabs my stuff and splits. Well, I had to find another way up, and bam, that's when I found the vault. I guess the moral is, sometimes you gotta fall before you make it big. I found the key just sitting there in front of the vault. Good thing I didn't open it myself. I gave the vault key to Atlas, got a boatload of cash, and the rest is history.
The final noteworthy event that happens before the first game in the series is that the Atlas Corporation uses the key to open the vault that was found on Promethea by Typhon de Leon. Inside, they come across a stash of extremely advanced Eridian weaponry and technology. Atlas decides to take advantage of this by reverse engineering the technology that they found, which makes the corporation make huge leaps in its products. Because of this, Atlas becomes the dominant corporation in the galactic region, and the other companies such as Hyperion and Dole struggle to keep up with Atlas.
I have been assigned to this sector by my superiors to find evidence of abandoned alien technology, similar to that found by our competitor, the Atlas Company, in the ruins on Prometheus. Technology that many believe made them the superpower they are now.
And with that, we come to the end of the Eridian timeline that happens before the games in the series. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for everything Borderlands related. Thank you for watching and have a great day.